You already know the image: a lone, foolish knight in rusted armor, charging hopelessly at a giant turning windmill. Modern culture has turned this image into a symbol of harmless folly, but the 1605 manuscript depicts a man who is increasingly at odds with a world that has no room for his imagination. The story begins with Alonso Quixano. He is a quiet, unremarkable, middle-aged Spanish gentleman, living a comfortable, mundane existence in a sleepy village. He suffers from no specific medical disease. Instead, he makes a radical choice to force a completely unmagical world to live up to an impossible romantic ideal. This is the exact kind of text that poisoned his mind, an antique chivalric romance filled with brave knights, dragons, and damsels. Alonso reads these stories day and night. He reads until he stops eating, stops sleeping, and completely severs his tie with reality. He unearths a suit of rusted armor belonging to his ancestors. He tapes together a cardboard helmet. He renames himself Don Quixote de la Mancha, genuinely convinced he is a knight-errant meant to ride out and fight evil. Every knight needs a squire, so he recruits his neighbor Sancho Panza. The two form a stark contrast: the tall, serious nobleman lost in the clouds, and the short, realistic peasant entirely grounded in the dirt. Together, they establish the core tension of the entire novel. A man is attempting to operate by the noble, honorable rules of medieval fantasy, while trapped inside a cynical, unforgiving reality. Part 1 of the novel plays out as a rapid series of brutal, hilarious collisions. Reality physically punishes Quixote for his delusions at every turn. When he spots a field of windmills, he declares them to be enormous giants and attacks. He is immediately flung from his horse and battered against the ground. To protect his ego, he calmly explains that an evil enchanter stole his glory by transforming the giants to stone at the last second. Later, he hears the rumbling of two great armies clashing in the distance and charges into the fray. It is a massive flock of sheep. The local shepherds respond to his heroics by breaking his ribs with heavy stones. He attempts to act morally by violently freeing a chain gang of galley slaves, declaring that no man should be held against his will. The rescued criminals immediately turn on him, beat him, and steal his clothes. He survives every broken bone and every public humiliation without ever questioning his mission. He treats the physical evidence of his failure as a test of his resolve. 10 years later, Cervantes published Part 2, introducing a brilliant literary twist. The characters inside the story have now read Part 1. They know exactly who Don Quixote is. His fame spreads as a published commodity. Strangers on the road no longer look at him with simple confusion. They treat him as a celebrity. This brings him to a duke and duchess. They represent a wealthy, entirely sane upper class that has no intention of helping him. Because they have read the book, they know all of Quixote's vulnerabilities. They construct elaborate, wildly expensive, and psychologically abusive pranks, staging fake enchantments and mock invasions solely to exploit a madman for their own evening entertainment. Cervantes creates a chilling contrast here. The Duke and Duchess have wealth, status, and perfectly sound minds, yet they choose to spend their time tormenting a vulnerable old man for a laugh. We can trace his final journey on this vintage map. Leaving the inland mountains of La Mancha, he rides toward the coast. He arrives at the Mediterranean Sea, a vast reality where his fantasy runs out of places to hide. On the sandy beach at Barcelona, a knight in white armor challenges him. They charge. The opponent's horse is vastly stronger, and Quixote is sent crashing to the ground, pinned with a lance at his throat. The victorious knight of the White Moon removes his helmet. It is Sansón Carrasco, a well-meaning neighbor from back home in disguise. His only demand is that Quixote abandon his quests and return to his village for 1 year. The fantasy is over. The weight of a quiet, ordinary life finally manages to do what the giants and armies could not. The journey home is heavy with melancholy. Quixote takes to his bed with a severe fever, physically broken by his forced retirement, and sleeps for 6 days. When he wakes, his eyes are clear. He is deeply ashamed of his delusions. He renounces all tales of chivalry and demands his friends call him by his true name, Alonso Quixano. He calmly calls for a notary to make his will and prepares for death. Around his bed, his friends, who spent the entire novel trying to cure him, weep desperately. Sancho Panza begs him to get up, pleading with him to abandon reality and return to the road as shepherds or knights. Sancho realizes, moments too late, the sheer value of his friend's impossible dream. The world finally got what it demanded. The old man is cured of his madness, and that sudden, total clarity is exactly what kills him. Don Quixote failed at absolutely everything he attempted. Every quest ended in disaster, leaving the world exactly as broken and cruel as he found it. Yet Cervantes leaves us with an enduring ache. Is it better to passively accept a cruel, indifferent reality, or to bravely charge at